Hey everyone, welcome to the Trout Show. Today, the Trout is thrilled to sit down with the electrifying blues rock queen, Joanna Connor. Known for her scorching guitar riffs and soulful vocals, Joanna's been lighting up stages from Chicago's blues scene to global festivals. With over a dozen albums, including her latest, Best of Me, and unforgettable performances like her viral cover of When the Levee Breaks, she's a force in modern blues. In this episode, we'll dive into her journey, from jamming with legends like Jimmy Page to crafting her signature slide guitar sound. So, grab a seat, and let's get into it with the one and only Joanna Connor.
Me and probably millions of other people were first exposed to you in the famous video. And I don't know how many years ago it was, Joanna, but I was watching and what I do now, I've been doing this for about 5 years now. I looked at this last night to see how many people, it's been 12 million views on that thing. And was this in Brooklyn? Where was that took place?
Well, sorry. Come here a little bit.
That's all right. Take your time. Hey, look, I understand.
So there is a guy, he's a really big blues fan. And I think he had a radio show. And somehow, like, he always helps bands out, and he lived outside of Boston. So every time now and then we'd be like, hey, Jim, we have a day off. Do you want us to play for you? Blah, blah, blah. He's like, yeah. So, he throws like a party. And so he had a party that day, and he had this little backyard, And he's like, yeah, we're going to do a little barbecue. And it was this big fence. And he was right next door, like real close. And it was in Norwood, Mass, which is outside of Boston.
Oh, is that where it is? Okay.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, whatever, let's do this. I was like totally fine. I wasn't like, oh, this is going to be great. And who knew what would happen from this? He like casually filmed it and stuck it on the internet. And I was like, and it led to so many opportunities for me, it was crazy.
So why do you think, I have my own ideas, but why do you think it took off?
Well, I don't know. This has been my thing, and I don't mean to sound like a bitter person, but I always, every time I did a festival or had a good opportunity, the audience always loved it. But the industry, I had some labels behind me, but I was never the favorite child of the music industry or the blues world.
Yeah.
It seemed like the people at that level kind of didn't open doors for me in a sense, but whatever's meant to be is meant to be. But I always knew the people liked what I did. And so when the internet came along, I was dragged kicking and screaming into it. But I was like, wow, the people have a voice now to say what they like.
Mm-hmm.
And they can find things like this. Whereas before, if a record executive didn't want you to be heard,
you weren't heard.
Yes. Everything has its pluses and minuses, because in other ways, when record companies had power, you could sell records to make money, so there's not just a cut and dry thing. But that's my opinion. And I think probably because it's like, it was like 90 degrees. I'm wearing this dress. I'm like, no makeup, not unassuming in a backyard. And people are like, wait, what is this? So it's that kind of like, I don't know if you call it shock factor, but kind of like, whoa, what is going on here? This is
who are the guys? Did you know the guys playing in the three other people that were playing, the drummer and the bass player?
That was my band.
That was your band. Okay.
Yeah, we were on tour. So we were we were on a tour, and we had this like day off, and Jim Party's like, yeah, come play in my backyard. So that's
here's my opinion about it, because I think, I'll tell you why I watched it. First off, it was just weird that here you are at like a garage, but outside. And I'm seeing you with your Les Paul, and I see these guys. I'm laughing at the drummer because he's pretending like he's going to play, and he's waiting on you to start intro, doing the intro. And I'm going like, who is this person? And then you start playing, and it was like, what the hell just happened? And then and it's like, wait a minute. And then I
Yeah,
look down and I go, now I know why it has so many views. And then
that's true. Yeah,
I'm sure other people took the same thing and said, "Oh man, you got to see this, all this thing," because there are people just like you that don't fit the mold of musician.
yeah.
We all have that idea of what it looks like. When you don't look that way, and then all of a sudden it comes out, it's almost like the Gomer Pyle situation.
I remember that.
Remember
Yes.
Jim Neighbors? He'd come out and,
Mhm.
"Hey, Jared," and then he'd start singing. You're like, "What the hell happened?"
Yeah, this
So,
disconnect. Yeah,
but the funny thing about it, though, how many years ago was that? Do you remember when it was?
I would say it was at least 10 years ago.
Okay, I
Yeah,
think it sits around 2014 or something like that.
yeah,
Um,
that makes sense.
but after that, somebody else saw it, and you started getting calls, didn't you? Or somebody posted to somebody else, and all of a sudden things are like, "Who's this Joanna Connor chick?"
Yeah, well, the funny thing, I've been around forever, and,
Yeah.
and and that's the funny part. But one of the great things that happened was I get an email from a production company saying, we're representing this director, a Adrian. Oh God, I can't think of his last name because I'm losing my Adrian Lee. Anyway, he did a flash dance and Fatal Attraction, and he saw your video. Could he call you? I was like, of course. Adrian
No,
went,
no, I don't want him to call me.
yeah, and then he called me this proper British guy, um, and he's like, oh, I just was so enamored with your video and this backyard, and I have this movie you're making, and we'd like to kind of recreate the same thing, but it's a one, and it ended up being in a movie called Deep Water with my band, and we filmed it live. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And it was, Ben Affleck's in it and Anna de Armas. But the bad part, and this is the crazy part, what happens is, when is it filmed? 2019 in December. When is
Oh,
it supposed to be released? In 20.
2020.
And look what happens.
Yeah, I know
So it
exactly.
got, yeah. So that was like the big break that kind of never was in a sense, but it was still an amazing experience.
Did you ever meet any of the stars, or did you just completely film completely separate?
No, they were there. Like the woman, Anna de Armas, who I didn't know got kind of become famous. She was in the scene, and then it was in a mansion in the Garden District of New Orleans, somebody's
Huh.
actual house, and I was actually sitting inside because it was freezing outside. It was January, and it was
Oh
supposed to be
yeah.
summer. So they're like, we're all in summer clothes, and I'm like, do you mind if I sit in the living room? They're like, yeah, and then they made everybody leave. And they're like, well, Ben Affleck's coming in. I said, can I just stay? And it was a big room. They're like, sure, go ahead. So I sat there like Ben Affleck and the star, the female star, were kind of talking about the movies they had done. I'm just sitting there at the back like,
You got a front row seat, and
yeah, it
just
was pretty interesting.
and you could
Yeah.
go, "Hey Ben, I'm in it too. I'm in it too."
Right. Hey, Ben, what's happening? So yeah, that was that story. So that was from that, and just a whole lot of interviews and like people doing like these. I forgot, it was a guy from England doing like he reviews people's video performances, and it had a lot of views. And yeah, so it was a wonderful thing and totally unexpected.
But isn't it funny what you said this earlier? Everybody thinks it's an overnight sensation, and you'd already been playing years by that time,
Oh my God, it
and it
started on
took
17.
and you take it because you started back when A&R people actually worked, and they actually showed
Yes,
up to hear people. They
yes,
don't
they
do that
did.
anymore.
Yeah, that is true.
And records were sold and CDs. People actually bought that stuff, and they don't do any of that anymore. But my favorite thing I saw was the fact that you wanted to be a ballerina. Is that story true?
It is true.
And but you were really tall for your age,
Hmm.
and it was your mom. You grew up in Brooklyn, right? Is that area or that area kind of?
Yeah.
And your mom said you ain't gonna fit that job, so she's the one that got you she's the one that got you the guitar.
Yes.
What she get? All right, tell me what she bought you. Did she buy an electric or acoustic?
No, was it a classical, a Sears Roebuck, back in the day, a classical guitar. I don't even know, what it
Oh
was.
yeah,
But
yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
was nylon string and yeah.
When you first picked it up and you go back and think about it, I remember when I first played guitar, I was 12. It kind of, your mind kind of goes away from it because you forget how long you had to play to get better at it. But I remember starting writing songs when I was in eighth grade
Hmm.
and playing in a band when I was in junior high and all that good stuff. Where was the turning point for you, though, that you said, "Oh, I like the blues"? Because you're just kind of thrown it. Was your parents or your mom into any kind of music yourself, or how did you get exposed to that?
It was my mom. Like literally, she had the best music taste ever and a huge, broad scope of music she listened to. So I literally grew up hearing blues and jazz and R&B and classical and everything. But she loved blues and jazz most of all, even reggae. When the first reggae album came out, The Harder They Come, I was 10. My mom brought it. So it's
Mm.
like she was the one. So like I didn't have to discover blues. It was in my living room, and I tell people the first blues act I ever saw, I was 10 years old with Buddy Guy. And this is like back when, now it's a little more common. When we were at a college sitting on a floor and I can remember it vividly. So
So when
yeah.
you started playing, though, when did you think about the slide? What was the guy there? I mean, you got Buddy Guy who's still doing it. I know his guitar tech, and I asked him last year, how long is he going to do? He said, I don't know. He just keeps every day. He says, I'm not doing it anymore. Now I think he's going to stay in Chicago. But who was the person who said, I want to learn how to play slide? Was there one individual that you went, oh, I like that? Who was it?
Well, this is a crazy story. So the one set of guitar lessons I ever took, I took it when I was very young, like classical. I was 7, but I did it and I quit. Started with the Alfred's basic prep books and all that. If you remember those,
Oh yeah.
and then worked my way up to like a little classical stuff. And then when I was 14, my friend had a guitar. My best friend. I was kind of like a competitive thing. Like, you know what? I used to play guitar. I should try that again. So I actually borrowed her guitar, and my mom, she worked at a college, and a fellow secretary had a husband who taught guitar. And little did I know, the man taught like he was a Rycooter fanatic who I didn't know about.
Ah,
And he was like really into like Blind Blake and Robert Johnson, a lot of the blues I wasn't as familiar with. So he heard what I could do, and he was like, okay. I brought my little classical pieces I had learned at 9 and brought him back out. And he was like, And he's like, well, we're going to learn to play this. And he started playing records for me and had tab. And then as time went on, he's like, I'm going to teach you to slide. And I wasn't even sure really what that was.
right,
And
right.
I'd heard it like, oh, that. Because, you don't see a whole lot of people playing it, even to this day. There's
Oh
some,
no,
but
no, there's a
very
few.
rarely.
Yeah.
So he was the one, and his name was Ron Johnson, and he was an amazing player. Never really performed, but just a great, great, great musician, and was a real taskmaster with me with the slide, but really delivered in terms of very solid technique from him. So that's how it happened.
What key did he want you to play in? It,
Well, we played in open G, open D, open E. It was
oh,
a lot of the open tunings.
okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I always did open E,
Yeah.
and then I started reading about Derek Trucks. All he plays is an open G, which is completely different. It's all different.
It is different. That's the one I play mostly in now. In the studio, I'll go in and I'll do in different tunings, but I'm pretty much standard tuning and open G.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I've always been watching him. Of course, I was his uncle. I guess was in the Allman Brothers, or that his
Yes.
dad. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to see him, and I'm always thinking about when I watch them. He's been doing the same thing for so long that I would think I'd have to sit around transpose, okay, here, well, this is no, when you're playing like that, and then you're like used to playing standard tuning. So then you started playing slide, and what was the affection though? I noticed that you play a lot, mostly, don't you play mostly Les Pauls? Or
Yeah,
do
I
you
do.
like the sustain? That's my favorite's 87 back there behind me. Is it the sustainability? What is it you like about them?
The weight, no, I'm kidding. I love love having backache. No, I had a Fender, a Strat in the beginning in Chicago, and then I went to this concert in Indiana, and it was like the Kinsey Report, Buddy Guy. It was a bunch of blues people. It was a great. I don't remember the rest, but it seemed like anyone that had the Gibson, the tone was just killing the Fenders to me. And I was like, you know what? I really like to get a Gibson, but I was like, they were pricey even then.
Oh yeah.
So there was the NAMM show used to be in Chicago,
Mm.
besides LA and wherever else.
Yeah.
And my mom and a guy had a music store and he gave me a pass, but I was on the road, so I said to my mom, I'm like, Mom, go to the NAMM show. Here's the pass. Just pass over. I had my first record on Blind Pig and a press kit of paper because that was how it was then.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just pass it out to people and see who'll get me. Maybe I'll get a guitar or something.
Sure, yeah.
Who called was Gibson.
Meet a financial advisor who learns what truly matters to you, creating financial strategies that support a life you love. That's David Smith with Edward Jones. His years of experience has assisted dozens of clients, just like you, to weave their way through the maze of financial opportunities available. One quick call at 469-372-1587 and David can assist your financial wants and needs. That's David Smith with Edward Jones at 469-372-1587. Remember, it's your financial future, make it a rewarding one. David Smith at 469-372-1587.
Wow.
And I was blown away, and I'm like, here's my chance. And the guy, they're like, well, we have a showroom and here, and here. And, you live in Chicago, but the closest one is wherever. I said, well, I'm going to be on the East Coast. And he goes, come to the one in New York. So it was a place they had in Times Square. I'll never forget that. And it was like, they let me in. It was all these guitars. I said, well, I know I want a Les Paul. So I wasn't sure what. And then there was the first year they made the classic 60 reissues. It was 1990. And I was like, I pulled it off the, rack up there, and the neck. I loved the neck. I said, this is the one I want. And then they shipped it to me from Nashville, and that was the guitar you see in that video. So it was like, that's when I finally got a Les Paul. And
How many do you have now? How many do you have now?
I had 5. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing about it is they're even though they're kind of mass produced, they're still, everyone's different.
I agree with you completely. Yep.
And my 87 up there, the one with all the gold on it, I've had other people come and play it, and they're like, oh my God, this neck. And it's like, yeah, I know. But if you went and got another one, that's why I never was an FG fan, because I didn't like the neck on them. They were too thick, and I didn't like it. And I'm a sustain guy. And so
Yes.
if like you're going to do sustain, you want a big old piece of 15-pound wood to do it.
Yep.
And I waited a long time before I got it. And it's still my favorite thing to do. And you're not one of those, it doesn't appear to be, that you pretty well stay with stock. I mean, do you start
Yeah.
messing with what, I want to change the picks, I want to change the neck? You don't do that, do you?
Mm-mm. But to me, like, I like the way you say, I don't like the neck on the SG, whatever. To me, the neck is everything.
Yeah.
Everything. Because that's, I mean, like you said, if you want to change the pickups, you can't change the wood. You're right.
No.
But, you can go and gut it and do whatever, but it's the neck. I got to feel comfortable. And then after a while, first when I played the Les Paul, the Strat, the body, my right hand felt kind of funny because it was just thicker and whatever. And I was like, well, I'm going to give this 3 months. If I can't deal with it, I'll go back to that. Well, I never did, So, but yeah, I love the sustain. I love the way it feels. Just love the way it feels in my hands. But you're right. People say, oh, what model? I'm like, listen, go to this music store, whatever, and play it. Because even though I agree with you, even though they're mass produced, they're all different. And you have to play the guitar. I can't. That's why when they do guitar interviews with me, they probably think I'm crazy. I'm like, I can't give you recommendations on what you should buy because you've got to play it.
Did you start on the Fender stuff like so many people did, or on the amps, or did you go to Twin, or did you start with that? Or I don't even know what you play now because I don't pay any attention that much anymore.
I started, well, my first really good amp was a twin, and it was a pretty old one. It was like it was a black bass twin. But I love tube amps. I had a Victoria amp for a long time. They hand make them in Chicago area. But a lot of times I'm into like on the road. I have a Mesa Boogie, but I have a Roland Jazz Chorus, and people laugh at me. I'm like, listen, you're on the road, especially now, and there's tube issue. I had a Supro I had problems with, and, whatever.
Yeah.
I go with the transistor a lot because 9 times out of 10 it's going to be fine, and you're going to be able to make it through the gig. So, but it's funny, like my drummer I have now, he's like a lot of different amps at festivals, and I'll just say, well, what's your cleanest amp? Because I like a clean rhythm, and I'll dirty it up with my pedals, and
Right.
want an amp that sound like bah, bah, whatever. And you never know. Like, you got a twin. I usually ask for a twin, but if they don't take care of the tubes or whatever, like is this amp taken care of? So I don't know. I always seem to find my tone.
The other thing I want to tell you about is I admire you about several things because I went through this myself. Losing weight is never fun.
No.
And I noticed when I saw you last time that how much weight you lost. And I always think it's kind of tacky me, hey, you look good. But I know how difficult it is. I lost 50 pounds because and as you get older, it's harder to lose. It's always harder for women. My wife drives it crazy. I'll lose 10 pounds, and she goes, I lost an ounce.
Yeah, right.
And mine came from, I was at a friend of mine. He's a judge friend of mine. And I was at one of his political rallies. And I looked at myself and I went, okay, I can't do this anymore. And what was the moment? Was it, and I've known people that do it because they worry about their health and all that stuff. And as we get older, we start worrying. Walk me through that. When did you go, okay, I got to do this? Because you're not, usually when you're in a situation you're in, you're traveling all the time. It's not easy. Junk food is there. People and everybody in the band's eating and they're all thin. And you're like, why can't I, What was the moment? What changed your mind about it and said, okay, I'm going to dedicate myself to doing this?
Well, I've had like 3 times. Well, I grew up as a thin kid. Like, I ate and ate and ate. And food, I realize now, looking back, and this is kind of, psych 101, but I realized food was my drug of choice. I realized, I tried many things, but there was always like with alcohol, with marijuana, with cocaine, whatever, with pills you try, whatever. There was always a price to pay immediately to me. And I was like, yeah, no, I can't do this. It wasn't my thing. But food, there's no immediate issue. Usually.
No.
It's delicious. It's instant gratification. There's so much, and it's comfort, and it's, I realized that psychologically that was my thing. And it's just a whole, the first few weeks, you're hungry all the time. I even lost more weight, I think, when you see being down here, because when you're in Jamaica, first of all, it's warm all the time. Also what made a difference for me was I became a vegan. And I was a vegetarian, but I ate a lot of cheese and stuff like that.
Still had dairy, yeah.
It's my protein, and I realized cheese was my crack,
Yeah.
So that's helped too. Although during the pandemic, I put on like 40 pounds being a vegan. Yeah. So that is possible. But that's helped. Being down here has helped. It's not like the vegan junk food I can run to. So, but I realize it's all in my mind. Really.
It is in your mind, and you're in a place where it's not. America is, obviously junk food heaven.
It is.
And you're in an island where it's not like that.
No.
You drive down the road and there's a guy making, jerk chicken or jerk, and then you're like, okay, I can eat that. Or they're eating fresh fruit for something from the island. Yeah. And you're right. I think it does make a difference when it's warm outside.
Yes.
Because you're not going to sit inside and watch TV. You're going to go, let's walk on the beach. Let's go see I'll just stand and look at the world and go, this is pretty freaking cool.
Yeah.
And I don't know, people don't understand how hard it is. And I always told people that I know when you get to the point when you've lost a lot of weight is when people think you're sick.
That's when I got really thin. The first time I lost a lot of weight, so I lost 100 pounds.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And people are like, are you okay? I was like, yeah. Can you still sing? I'm like, Yeah. That was another thing. It was like, oh, you have to be a big mama to have a big voice. I'm like, nah, that ain't where it comes
That's
from.
no, that's not.
But
But
yeah,
isn't that true? Because I remember I got down to a point where I was having breakfast with a friend of mine. He goes, "You all right? You feeling okay?"
right?
He said,
Yeah, right.
you look gaunt."
Yeah,
And
I
I
don't look
said
like
to
it
him,
now.
"Hey, I feel better than I ever have in my life." Really? You look terrible. I said, "Well,
They really look terrible.
well, when you people say that, they're more worried about you doing it, And
Right.
did you get so you get Gibson giving you stuff or helping you out? Who is the string person? That did you go to somebody and do the same thing? I mean, that was very smart what you did because it's like you knew you were smart enough to know I can't do it, but somebody else can. Hey, mom.
Yeah, yeah. No, she was great on them. She was a rest in peace. She was a character anyway, so she probably like, who's this little lady coming around with this? This is my daughter. I can see it now. Um, yeah, I mean, I've been really kind of fortunate that like people have come up to me now, like, would you like these strings? Would you? So once you get the little reputation from the videos, and then Joe Bonamassa came along, and like, people are more than willing to like, hey, would you like an amp? But there's also someone unexpected that really helped me out a lot was one of these videos went crazy on the internet. A guy named Tracy Guns started responding to me, and Tracy Guns was the original Guns N' Roses guitarist. That's
Oh,
the
okay.
name. And then he has a L.A. Guns is his
Oh,
band.
yeah,
He's been
I've
for
heard
a
that.
long
Yeah, yeah,
time.
yeah.
And he's still the nicest guy. He would talk about me in interviews. He's like, I said, well, I lost contact with Gibson. Oh, I'll get you. You need some more guitars. And he's the reason I got more guitars was him. He put in the call. You want some amps? So God bless him. He like literally, he's like a patron saint of women guitarists or something. I don't know. And we've never even met in person, but we've talked on the phone and
Yeah, yeah.
he's a real sweet guy. Yeah. And
Well, what do you play?
I use Labella right now because they gave me an endorsement and it's lovely. They're lovely strings and I
All
I
right, so
use
what's the on the
gauge
high? Yeah, on the E. What is it? High E.
10.
So you
I
want the
use
tens? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Although now I'm kind of like I picked up a guitar with nines one day. I was like, these are a lot easier to bend. But tens kind of to me, I played like guitars at 11s, nines for the slide because I don't have a guitar dedicated to slide. I just pick up and go. I think the tens are a good choice. I set my guitar up for regular lead. I don't set it
I
up
was
for
going to ask you. I didn't think you probably raised it at all. You
no.
probably just like it standard and then do your thing.
Yeah.
And
So
and if
right now
I
that's good.
do you play a metal slide? I'm trying to remember what you play because I never
Yes, I do. I mean, I do like glass, but usually the glass isn't heavy enough for me.
like that. Something like that.
Yes,
You play
that's
like
I use metal. I feel like the metal's good. And the other thing is, I've been at gigs where I dropped the glass slide and it broke, and I was like, oh shit, so the metal doesn't break.
I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about Jimmy Page.
Hmm. Well,
How old were you when you saw him or got to play with him?
I was 23. Yeah, and so I was playing in a band. We were Kingston Mines, which I ended up playing in for years. But it's a famous blues club in Chicago, and it used to be really famous with famous people because it's been open since the late '60s.
Mm-hmm.
And there's two stages, and it's open till 4 or 5 in the morning. Saturdays 5, weeknights 4, and so everybody would come there. And there was a guy that I played in a band with a guy named Dion Payton. And there was a guy from Atlantic Records named Rick Sudakoff. He loved Dion, was a big fan. He liked me and whatever. And he was an A&R guy for Atlantic. And so we played Thursday, Friday, Saturday, but Thursday we were the only band. So we used to take like the last set, we usually have all the musicians come and jam. And Dion's in the dressing room and somebody comes and gets me because we had the break. He's like, Joanna, come here. Some English guy is here and he wants to play. And you play with him. He goes, you play with the English guy. And I'm like, the English guy? Okay, whatever. I go, well, whose guitar is he? You have a guitar? He goes, no, I was using my guitar. It's all right. So I walk out to the, going towards the stage. And Rick said, Joanna, come here. There's somebody I want you to meet. It was freaking Jimmy Page. He's sitting
Did
at
he
a
not know
table.
who he was?
He didn't even know who he was, Dion. God bless
Oh
his
my
soul.
God.
So I was like dumbfounded. I'm like, and so we got up and he was very polite. Hello, I'm Jimmy Page. I'm like, and I don't even remember what I said. I was like probably a mumbling idiot. So we got up on stage and it was Sugar Blue, the harmonica player, Valerie Wellington, it was a singer, and the band, we were in the rhythm section, and me and Jimmy Page, and Jimmy's standing next to me, and he's like, and he's a little shorter than me, which I was surprised. He's like, "What key are we in?" I was like, "We're in A minor." And about 5 seconds later, he's like, "What key are we in?" I'm like, "We're in A minor." But I'll never forget, like, this is before 1985. He was on tour with The Firm. I don't know if you
Oh
remember.
yeah, I remember the Firm.
So
Radio.
that's
They
why
had a
he was.
song called Radioactive, I think. That's what
Yeah,
it
and he was there because of that. So he had like an entourage and whatever. But all
Of
these
course
people,
he did.
yeah, he did. But he was just the nice. He was like, he gave me an autograph, and he's like, "Oh, if you keep playing the slide like that, I'll be out of business," or something like that.
Something
And
sweet.
he was just so nice, and he gave me a hug, and very proper British guy, or seemed to be. But the whole club, like everybody just came running to the front of the stage, and they're like literally running in. So it was like we did about 5 songs, and then this is the funny part. I don't know why he was there again, but he was in Chicago, and he came to the show, and I walked down, and he's like, "Yes, good to see you again." It was funny because I had on leopard skin pants and a white cowboy hat. It was my stage outfit. He goes, "I remember what you wore that night we played together," and I was
Oh
like,
my gosh.
"You couldn't remember we were in A minor, but you remember what I had on that night." And I'm like, and we started talking. He started talking about his kid and the house he lived in. He had a son there. And he was like the super. I'm like, "Do you want to play tonight?" He's like, "No, I don't really feel it." But he was like super, super nice guy. And we just talked about Zodiac stuff. And, I talked about
Well,
my.
I think a lot of times people like him, they don't want to talk about music all the time. They want to talk about something else
Yeah.
because that's all they talk about all the time, and that's all
Yeah.
people want to talk to him about. You do a lot of touring. Um, when you come up, so are you getting ready to start on a summer thing, or what's on your plan now? Because I know you're obviously coming here, but you got obviously got other. I haven't looked at your tour dates, but what's coming up?
Well, there's like a lot of kind of touring, but like my busy season will be happening now. Like I usually just stay in Chicago, play the club 3 nights a week all winter. Because I'm like, I'm not traveling in the winter. It's too
Yeah, I don't blame
scary
you.
out there.
Yeah.
So now I don't do that much, maybe once a month. So I'm down here, semi-retired, so in a way. But yeah, I'm gonna be in LA after Dallas, and I'm gonna be in Chicago doing some stuff. Then I come back here for a little bit, but then we're going on tour in Florida, up and down the East Coast. Just random festivals, a little Canada. We're supposed to go to Okinawa to play for the Marines in
Oh, that'd
August.
be cool. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that, and a little bit of Europe in the fall. So yeah, it's all coming together.
Well, that's it for this episode of the Trout Show. Thank you so much for stopping by. Very, very big thank you to the wonderfully talented Joanna Connor for coming on. Love the music, and I got the opportunity to meet her in person recently too. Just a really wonderful person. Great to see that she's doing so well. If you'd like to have more information about Joanna Connor, go to her website, JoannaConnorWreckingCrew.com. JoannaConnorWreckingCrew.com. That everything you need to do right there. Music, all the stuff. Also want to give a shout out once again, the guy that keeps the lights on here for us, David Smith with Edward Jones. Thank you, David. I appreciate it very, very much for you helping us out as always. And remember, if you need to know more information about the Trout Show, visit our website at thetroutshow.com. Everything's there. Podcast, YouTube, music, everything you need to know. A lot of great guests coming up. Hope you stay tuned for more guests in the near future. So this is Trout saying what I always do. Remember, it's only rock and roll, but I love it. See ya.